Greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Going to be joined in a moment by Keith Malinak from the Pat Gray Show. I am Steve Deace. We are brought to you by our friends over at American Giant. You know, when you put on a hoodie or a T-shirt, you shouldn't have to wonder where it was made or how well it was made, how it was put together. And with American Giant, you won't have to. It's gear made right here in the US of A with top quality materials, strong, beautiful craftsmanship, so every piece lives up to what made in America should and used to really mean. You're going to feel the difference with the heft of the fabric, the attention to detail, the way it still holds shape, wash after wash. All right? So you're supporting a company that also does business the right way with factories here at home. So in a world of fast fashion and throwaway apparel, American Giant, they stand apart, smart, sustainable, timeless. Built with pride, your wardrobe gets upgraded and your values get honored at the same time. So buy American today at American-Giant.com/Steve. American-Giant.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve and you get 20% off when you use my name. American-Giant.com/Steve. Again, American-Giant.com/Steve. 20% off with the promo code Steve. Coming up next hour, it's going to be your turn on a Feedback Friday, but let's kick this off as we always do with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins with me asking good old Keith Malinak there a question. In fact, let me look at the live reads today. They're not on the docket there. But you work for a show there with Mr. Pat Gray, correct, Keith?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, his family would have the outstanding business known as Kexi Cookies, is my understanding, correct?
Yeah, it's a tasty endeavor.
That we have been promoting on said show for most of this year, in fact. And I have tried to make it very subtle with references in my last few live reads, Keith, that I have not yet received my holiday box of their offerings.
Hang on a second.
All right.
So make a note here.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this directly to management here.
A strongly worded letter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I made a note.
All right. Now let's pretend that didn't happen. Keith Malinak, great to have you back on the Deace Group, brother. Merry Christmas to you. How are you?
Merry Christmas. Thanks for inviting me, guys. I apprate it.
What's the over-under on the only reason we asked Keith is so you could get that out of your system there?
Well, I felt like Aaron was doing me a solid. All right? Pat
you guys are going on the assumption that Pat's going to listen to anything I say.
I know that you're going to get closer to him than I am, so thank you for that.
Okay.
All right, we appreciate that. All right, let's do it. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
We didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes from my heart, not just my head. It wasn't a political evolution. It was
position being that
I don't think it's I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson.
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about being white every day. When kids have a moment to reflect about how the color of their skin does and does not allow them to move through the world. Running to them and trying to stifle that and trying to say you shouldn't feel bad. So we don't want to ever expose you to something that is going to make you have to pause and have maybe some internal feelings. It's a missed opportunity.
I want to see trans kids.
So what state did you guys land first of all?
Kansas
City.
Of all places. Yeah, it was like a boot camp for Maine, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's just I mean, anyone who lives in Maine knows Maine and has ever visited Kansas, they will know what I'm talking about. It's just a lot.
As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear.
I want to see trans kids.
This notion of toxicity in masculinity needs to be separated. And I think it's been conflated. And I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on it.
I want to see trans kids.
In a December 2024 Vanity Fair profile, quote, all the complexities within the Latino community The immigration thing has always been something that has perplexed me about this community. It's basically like, I fought to get here, but I left y'all where I left y'all, and I want no more y'all to come here. If I wanted to be with y'all, I would stay with y'all, but I don't want y'all coming to my new home. It almost reminds me of what people would talk about when they would talk about kind of like slave mentality and the hate that some slaves would have for themselves. It's almost like a slave mentality that they have. Now, about the time that was published last year, around 1 million Latino voters in Texas were voting for Trump. Do they all have slave mentality?
No, and that's not what that said.
I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis.
All of us need to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What am I doing specifically today to make this country a better country, to make all of our immigrants feel more welcome?
Do you think he would be a good president?
Yeah, I do.
I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson. There's no governor that's signed more pro-trans legislation than I have.
All right, before we get to the montage question, I want to take a snap poll. All right? Snap poll. To get to 50 U.S. senators next year, you have to vote for John Curtis in Utah, who tells you he's a traitor to his country and his highest priority is how to serve foreigners. To get to 50 U.S. senators, you've got to vote for John Curtis. What do you do?
No.
You're a no?
He was going to be my answer, so.
You're a no?
Yeah.
I mean, you think that guy is so utterly unreliable on virtually judicial nominations and everything else, why you'd want 50 senators so that JD could break the tie.
It's not even unreliable. He's invincibly ignorant. Look around you at all that. And that happens every day. And all you have is those talking points.
Well, you're not alone in that take, because Winsome Sears got 62% of the Trump 2024 vote in Loudoun County, Virginia last month. And that's the very county that made Glenn Youngkin governor. So you're not the only Republican voter thinking that way. All right. Our base is demoralized and literally showing up for jack freaking squat all over the country. All right. Unless Trump has to come out and beg them like he did the Tennessee special election last week. Keith, where are you at? Same question to you.
Yeah, who else is on the ballot? Is there a libertarian on the ballot?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. That's your 50th U.S. senator, so JD could break the tie, is the guy who says he's in office to serve foreigners.
No.
Aaron.
If the House were still controlled by Republicans, it would be a definite no. If this all came down to me, if this all came down to me and I was the deciding vote, that would play into my decision. Because if the House is lost and it's up to you to whether or not you can break the Senate,
that's fair.
Then I would probably vote yes.
But see, look at the amount of just tension. We are the base. You're not. I mean, we're the ones that are here through thick and thin. And the amount of tension, and there's 4 smart guys here, presumably. The amount of tension in everybody's voice trying to do this math at a time that that good and evil seems pretty clear cut. I mean, we all would agree probably we're in some form of existential conflict. I've been calling it a cold civil war for the last several years. And at that period of time, things should be pretty simple. Not easy, but simple. You know what I'm saying? Just simple. Clarifiers abound. And here's the thing, though. That guy clarified who he's really for. He's not really for America. And that's what creates all this tension.
They're simple for him, but just in the opposite direction of what we need.
Correct. All right, thank you for that bit of a digression. Let's get back to the what I told you guys we were going to do. So, first question back to you, Keith. What was the most disgusting, terrible thing you were just subjected to in Aaron's montage, and why?
And I kept changing my answer because it was all disgusting. But I have been hung up on that Somali lawmaker chick from Maine who described Kansas as boot camp for Maine. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th clip in the montage there from Aaron. if you hate, she is literally living the American dream. You're making laws for this country, and the disdain in her voice, and just, I'm sorry if precipitation bothers you, and you hate multiple parts of the country, but that chick right there, that Somali lawmaker who was sitting there on stage with that guy talking about how much she hated Kansas and Maine.
That's an analog to the conversation we just had, Keith. It's an analog to the conversation we just had.
There's less daylight than you might think between John Curtis and that woman.
100%. 100%. I mean, you know what? Let's do this thought exercise. John Curtis lives in the state of Vermont. Is he a Republican? No.
Boy.
No. Has to be. He's in Utah. He has to be. He has to be. Lives in the state of California. Is he a Republican? Lives in the state of Maine. Lives in the state of Connecticut. Lives in the state of New York. Lives in the state of Illinois. Lives in the state of Minnesota. Let's just go on, name every blue state off the top of our heads. And the answer is no. New Jersey. Name them all.
Think about it. It's not that kind of person. It's not really a conscious decision for him. They're just jellyfish, and they become
a hydra.
They survive.
Construct of a hydra.
They survive.
Hail Hydra. Correct. Yep. All right. So your answer is already in. Did you want to give an addendum?
Well,
you think anybody deserves a bonus mention?
My second answer was going to be what Keith did, so I'm just going to echo that the ingrate that she is to get to live, like Keith said, the American dream. But she wants to do it. That's not an accident. That is very conscious for her. She enjoys spitting on it.
Yep.
And so I have to double down. I'll only add the people who vote her in. I don't care if it's a leftist state. The fact that you let that be the face of who you are, it's a pox on your house. It's absolutely disgusting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, the King of England reminded us that the Quran reminds us Allah will never give us more burdens than we can bear. So whether that burden is Kansas or Maine, Allah's got you, sister. I'm going to go off the board. How about Candace Owens calling our sister and colleague, Allie Beth Stuckey, her disagreement? Really, Allie's just calling a spade in pursuit of the truth, the courageous pursuit of the truth, which we would expect nothing less of. Calling that pursuit of the truth pro-Jewish tribalism because Allie Beth Stuckey's great-grandfather was Jewish.
That literally happened. She posted this on Allie's Instagram page last night. Candace Owens did.
All right, I got nothing. Yes, that is the reason. Pro-Jewish tribalism because your great-grandfather was Jewish. Yes, that makes sense. And absolutely none of the, how many realms are there? 9 realms, 8 realms? Yep. Keep going.
She will.
It's not a coincidence that it started with the Jews and then ended up here. What did I say when the Jews stuff was going on? No one ever ends up in that ditch and comes out better. No one ever does. Something supernatural happens when people plant themselves in that ditch. And they end up in an abyss they almost never dig themselves out of and just get progressively worse from there. Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds that our friend Jill Savage has to worry about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham, and 10 being the odds, my man here, Keith Malinak, brother, 10 being the odds that he does. Watch your 6, Keith.
Yeah.
Watch your 6.
Noted.
Rank this week's level of total depravity, Todd.
10.
Keith.
10.
Aaron.
10.
All right, before we continue on, a word about our friends over at Preborn. You guys have been so generous to them with this partnership between Preborn and the Blaze over the last few years. We cannot say thank you enough. And I know that there's also a lot of you that you are looking for, ideal end of year given this time of year. You can't give a better gift than to a 5-star charity, and it's the gift of life. For as little as $28, you can fund an ultrasound that probably doubles a baby's chance of not being murdered by his or her mother today. Where else can you spend $28 to save a life today? And I would also argue, by the way, you're probably doubling the mother's chances at eternal life. Because as we've all lived through over the last few election cycles, there is something unique when a critical mass of women have committed this grievous sin. And instead of receiving the grace of Christ for it, instead harden their hearts, sear their consciences, and want to shout their abortions and want to be told what they did was right, rather than admit it was wrong and receive the grace and forgiveness that Christ offers for doing so. And we've all suffered under that burden because they then turn around and vote for communists to destroy America in order to receive the affirmation that they seek. Well, since we just had this conversation that pretty much admitted we can't rely on the Republican Party to do anything about it politically, then we have to go down street level, soul to soul, and try to win this battle. And that is what Preborn does. You want to make your tax-deductible donation today. They support these moms after they get into the light and choose life, sometimes for up to 2 years. So this is not just a one and done. Thank you for choosing life. Good luck to you. This is a ministry, and they are discipling moms, helping to forge new families. And you can help them as well. Preborn.com/Steve is how you can make your tax-deductible donation today at preborn.com/Steve. All right, let's get to issue 2. Straight up question. No tongue in cheek. No embellishment. Just, I want us to I'm clarifying it, okay? With disclaimers. This is not I'm not pulling a rush here. I'm not demonstrating absurdity to be absurd. Straight up question I want us to intellectually ponder. Is the Republican Congress actively trying to sabotage the Trump presidency?
The answer to that question is, of course, evergreen, yes. But this week provided the latest examples. President Trump was caught on a hot mic at the White House complaining about the pace of judicial confirmations in the U.S. Senate.
I cannot appoint anybody. I can't appoint anybody. Everybody I've appointed, their time has expired. And then they're in default. And then we'll lose the case.
On Truth Social, President Trump also politely called out Senate Majority Leader John Thune and asked for the termination of something called blue slips. On Fox News, Thune told Trump it's not going to happen.
Well, this is something that applies just to district court judges and U.S. attorneys, and it allows individuals, the senators from those states, to be able to sign off on the people who are nominated to those positions. That doesn't apply to circuit court judges, obviously doesn't apply to Supreme Court judges. This is a procedure that's been in place for a long time that both Republicans and Democrats support because it gives them some input, particularly in those judges, the judicial appointments that are made in their individual states, some input into that decision-making process.
Do another quick thought exercise here. Aaron, go ahead. Yes.
Yes. I just want to make a quick point of personal privilege. Don't let John Thune's folksy demeanor, his excellent delivery, cloud the fact that what he really said is, get bent, orange man.
That is
just
exactly what
a point
he said.
of personal privilege.
You're in the midst of we're in the midst of a civil war, right? And your general is John Thune, who comes to bring you deep, detailed thoughts on arcane procedure and codicils and regulations no one's ever heard about, no one cares about, while your enemies are literally shooting at your face. Thoughts. Because that's what you just watched. That's what you just watched. I mean, compare these two montages. Look at the conviction. Now, of course, we know that Gavin Newsom has no convictions. All right. He started the year by having Charlie on his show to admit that his party's gone too far with the tranny stuff. Remember this. That's how he started the year, right? Okay. He started the year by trying to show that he's the guy that can move the Democratic Party more into the sane realm, launched a podcast. I believe Charlie was its very first guest and even admitted that he doesn't think men belong in women's sports. You guys remember this? Okay.
Yes. To
which he got literally banished to Siberia and had to return 3 months later now as an avowed Marxist. All right. So do not claim that, or do not mistake that I think Gavin Newsom has any convictions. He does not. But look at the amount of conviction he's at least willing to muster, while even saying 80% of the country is against me on this. Just compare that, all right? Compare that, compare how just basic instinct Gavin Newsom, that's our enemy. That's our enemy, all right? He'll start the year taking one position on one issue and take the completely opposite position on the same issue and do both with, of course, the utmost emotion and conviction. And our counter is, well, we have these blue states, those blue slips. so that it doesn't work with the circuit court justices, of course, but with the district courts, we want to make sure the home stays. By now, we're all dead. They've shot us all dead. We're all dead by now. John's still talking, right? We're all dead. We're literally dead. We're in smoldering ash. The smoke they've exhausted their chambers as the smoke comes from the end of the turret. John, meanwhile, is still waxing poetic about arcane procedure.
Do you think the moment after Trump dove to the ground of the stage at that Butler, Pennsylvania.
John Thune regretted that they missed?
Butler, Pennsylvania fairground. And those pictures that caught him as he was still face down, and he has a look on his face trying to figure out if he's still alive as the blood is pouring down his face. Do you think President Trump was wondering, hey, what are John Thune's finer points about blue slips? I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me, do you think John Thune regretted the fact that the math club shooter missed?
Yeah.
Because my answer to that would probably be yes, to be brutally honest with you. Yeah. So with that, I'm out of Fs. I don't really carry a lot to give anyway. You guys know I don't have like a endless supply of Fs to give to begin with, but I'm completely out. I'm just completely out. So let's start with the question we began the topic with. Keith, is the Republican Congress legitimately, straight up, trying to sabotage the Trump presidency?
Boy, I would say yes. Definitely they are. But there is, I think, some room to think, no, they're just this incompetent. But no, I believe that they absolutely are. And in fact, I brought a visual aid, if you don't mind. I'd like to point
My
this
guess
out.
is it's going to be extremely microscopic if you are depicting the Republican Congress in their testicular fortitude. It'll be very, very small.
Yes, okay. So Beard Vet on X had this great compilation of stats. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, we got it good.
I apologize if
no, we see it well. You bet.
Okay, so H.W. Bush, his first year in office, the Congress, and I've denoted there the red circle on the top is the presidency, and then the blue is the House and the Senate.
Yep.
So he had Democrats, and they passed 242 bills in his first year in the Oval Office. All right, so then Clinton comes in, 93, 209, and he had all blue. I mean, he had the trifecta there, and there you go.
Yep.
W. Bush, 2001. You remember Jim Jeffords jumped ship halfway through.
That's right. Yep.
So you got a red House and a split Senate there. Obama, his first year, all blue, 120. Trump's first year, 2017, 96, with an all red House and Senate presidency. Biden with all the Democrats, 122. So far in 2025, we have 47
That is
bills that have
devastating.
been passed.
Holy cow.
And that's the fifth fewest of all time. And I believe it was 5 that passed in his first 100 days. So absolutely they're sabotaging him. And it's ironic because surely, when they're being completely honest with themselves, they realize the only reason that they have the power that they do is because Donald Trump was on the ballot in November of 2024. And John Thune is just a coherent Mitch McConnell. That's all he is. And it's the same crap, and it's so frustrating. And the fact Donald Trump isn't running for any office in 2026, and the Republicans are going to get their heads handed to them if they don't lean on him. And he could I think he could trade some. You want me on your campaign trail? You want me out there endorsing you? Then pass my bills, damn it. And there are plenty of things out there that not only the base for the Republican Party support, but independents as well. This is maddening, man. And here we are again, as if we've never learned our damn lesson time after time after time.
Todd, are they legit trying to sabotage him?
No. And because of everything Keith said. And Steve, if I remind you of your own talking points, the frosting may be zanier, but the cake is the same. Also, why do most of these guys get elected to do something or to be somebody?
Mm-hmm.
It's to be somebody and to get paid. This is just indirectly they are sabotaging it. That's undeniably true, but I don't think that's their prime motivation. And you see on that sliding scale, it's endemic of right and left. But certainly on the right, there's a bunch of John Curtises right there. They're just squishes. And they're trying to, again, have status. They're trying to be at the cool kids table. They're trying to make a buck. All kinds of things. Folks, this is why I talk about college football and sports pro. That happens because of this. They're all the same people. Look at the great thing that Keith talked about, America, but how we spit on it and piss on it all the time. The same thing with college football. While saying it's all great, we're burning it down in our idolatry, in our lusts. The exact same thing there. They go there, they're stripping it apart down to the copper wire and the studs, selling it all because that's all they want. They really don't care fundamentally about the country. Red, white, and blue, Star-Spangled Banner, anything that stirs the heart. None of that.
Aaron?
Yeah, the evergreen answer to this question is yes. And I think the answer that Keith just gave might be one of the best tour de forces of any Deace Group guest on a political subject that we've ever seen, illustrating just in 25 years. In 25 years, one of these things is not like the other. At this point, if the people who campaign for your vote, who get your vote, who get to vote on your behalf, cannot even be bothered to just, even if you give into this, hey, these bills, let's do single issue bills, they're probably not going anywhere. Wouldn't it be beneficial to them, even if they don't believe it, even if they just political circus?
Make Democrats vote for terrible stuff.
For terrible stuff over and over and over again.
Yep.
That would be beneficial to them. But they can't even do that. It's incompetency, it's evil, it's maliciousness, it's Machiavelli. Whatever word you want to describe it, but it's just a blob. We don't have a Congress, we have a blob.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, Republicans and Donald Trump himself is still living with the ghost of John McCain and his thumbs down on the Obamacare repeal in the first term. That's why they're still having to deal with this crap now. And it's absolutely, it's...
John McCain was literally dying. I think this was his very final vote, was it not? I believe it was.
It was up there near the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that... I think that they just don't even realize. I think that because to your point, Todd, yes, they want to be popular. They love it. They don't want to lead. No. They just want to be up there and have the power and prestige, but they don't want to lead. And they can do that from a minority position and fundraise for campaigns off of bitching about what the left is doing without having to do anything. And so I think that part of them, maybe it's subconsciously, but I think that they absolutely.
You're right. And for a long time, our base let them do this to them. But again, what you're seeing in these off-year elections, what you saw in Virginia, we have reached now, we've entered, to quote my friend Spock, we've entered the Mutara Nebula now. Now it's cloudy in here because the base now hates them as much as they've always hated the base. And the base isn't turning up. And the base is saying, we're out. Run whoever you want. We don't care. Unless the Donald Trump's on the ballot, we don't show up no matter what anybody tells us. We finally figured out you hate us. The feeling is mutual. So we will see where things go from here. We're up against the break. Quickly, what realistic piece of legislation, as an exit question, would you tell the GOP Congress to have on Trump's desk by Christmas, Todd?
Something about transgenderism.
Banning all tranny surgeries?
I think the votes are there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. What do you think, Keith?
85% of voters want voter ID. And I say that if you want to be a part of a federal election, if you want that on the ballot in your state, then you're not going to do mail-in ballots and you're going to do voter ID. This is a no-brainer. And if the Republican Party really cared, they would have already passed the SAVE Act.
Not to mention it would be for their own benefit to win again. That's why you have to start asking, are they sabotage? And they won't do easy things that would help them win. Okay? Aaron?
Making it a felony to utter the two digits that come after 5 together.
Correct.
I hear you.
Oh, my daughter is listening.
Very nice. All right. I don't have time for anything else. So we got to get up against the break. I want to just reiterate again to you guys, because the way the legislation that Keith picked there perfectly encapsulates why it was legitimate to ask the question that I just did. This is legislation you want that they say they have the votes for that would help them win an election. To the point it doesn't matter how many, you don't have to gerrymander Indiana if you do what Keith is asking. So then why won't they do it? And you're left to eventually just ask, they would rather lose. They would rather sabotage this thing. More in a moment. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Listen, for a limited time, Patriot Mobile is running their Red, White, and Blue Friday promotion, your once-a-year chance to get a free smartphone just for switching to America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. A brand new phone, absolutely free, while supplies last with Patriot Mobile, who for the last decade plus, they've been defending faith, family, and freedom in the arena. I've seen it myself. I've spoken all over the country where things have been sponsored by Patriot Mobile, so I've seen them put the profits you give them right back into the kingdom prophetically, so I've seen that. They also, though, give you the same or even better premium coverage than you get at the communist networks. Unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming. You can switch networks within their central hub anytime you want for free, and more. All right? So if you want to upgrade right now with their 100% U.S.-based customer service team, keep your number, switch your number, keep your phone, upgrade your phone. Go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve for this limited time offer. A free smartphone for making the switch while supplies last. patriotmobile.com/Steve with the code Steve. That's where you want to go. patriotmobile.com/Steve with the code Steve. As we welcome back our friend and colleague here, Keith Malinak from the Pat Gray Show, as we march on with your weekly look at the week that was, let's get to issue 3. Candace. Every generation has its signature voices, whose singular name echoes throughout every holiday season. Bing, Sinatra, Elvis, Mariah, and now, Candace.
Dashing to the bank, thanks to my engagement ring. I'm a grifting tool, laughing at you fools, ha ha ha!
That's right, it's Candace, as you've never heard her before, bringing you the fullness of joy this Christmas with her trailblazing flair and brutal honesty. Nothing says, trust me bro, this time of year quite like a Candace Christmas.
That's Candace, you gave me your clicks, but the very next day I sold out anyway. This year, for even more fame, I'll try to frame Josh Hammer. It's the most profitable time of the year. There'll be podcasts for hosting, former friends for roasting, and plenty of gullibles to deceive. There'll be scary Jew stories, tall tales to boost my glory from text, fake from long, long ago. Guitar baby, slip Alexis under the tree for me. I've been an awfully good girl, Qatar baby, and rushed that wire transfer tonight. Shapiro got run over by yours truly. I can't believe that dumb Israeli ever hired me. You could say there's no such thing as blasphemy, but I can't even turn Crisis King into idolatry.
But don't worry, it's not all fun and frivolity. A Candace Christmas is also here to honor the real reason for the season.
Listeners, did you know that I'm playing you and your double-digit IQ? Listeners, did you know there's nothing I won't say and nobody I won't betray? Silent night, no Jews inside. I'll be calm when the Zionists are gone.
But that's not all. This collection has so much more to offer. Like, baby, there's Jews outside. Rudolph, my favorite SS agent. You're beginning to look a lot like incels. Little Groiper boy. Oh, little town of Tehran. Joy to the bots. I saw Macron kissing, whatever the hell that was. The Jews are trying to kill me again, send money. What time zone is this? And happy Christmas, the grift is never over, and more. Thank you, Aaron. So this blew sky high this week. And by the way, many of you have asked. Yes, that is my beloved oldest daughter, Anastasia, on vocals there in the production. That is her doing all the singing. So yes, shout out to her. Now let's get serious, though, for a second, because this thing has blown sky high this week. Aaron already referenced Candace Owens on Ali Stuckey's Instagram page, saying that Ali's only taken Candace on for whatever the literal hell she is doing because her great-grandfather that she never met was a Jew. Straight up. That's what she posted on Ali Stuckey's Instagram page last night. So now, since Erica Kirk has spoken out on Fox News with our own Glenn Beck on CBS News, now you are seeing some people who either didn't, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they didn't realize how big of a deal this was, or more than likely for most, just looked the other way and pretended it did not recognize what's been happening for the last few months. Now, lots of people are going on the record about this that were very silent for the last few months. So that's a separate conversation. What I would like to discuss is why stuff like this happens to our side all the time. One of my prediction at the end of the show will address the next wannabe Candace Owens. Looking at you, Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's no example. This goes all the way back to eras where maybe Aaron was barely alive. Remember, who was the guy? Was it David Schrock? Was that his name? The guy that wrote the books on Clinton and Whitewater, right? And Rush talked about him, and the books became bestsellers. You remember this?
Yeah, I do.
And then he Then he came out that the whole thing was he just did it all for money. He's really a homosexual, and he started Media Matters. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
What story like this exists on their side? Just 30 years of history. Give me one. Give me one. Just give me one.
They stand for things, and we don't.
This stuff happens to our side all of the time. Which is why, here's the question I want us to debate. Was this woman just a grifter from the beginning? Because listen, the quickest way to success in this business, as I've said for years, be a non-white face and say things a bunch of white boomers who have been falsely smeared as racist their whole lives want to hear, so they can then say, see, I'm not the only one who thinks this way. We've got this one person. Look at their melanin level. They think it too. So is she just a grifter from the beginning, or she just lost her damn mind and soul here in the last year? Because I think this goes a long way to closing a trap door that clearly exists in our movement. This stuff happens to us all the time. All the time. Todd.
She was a grifter from the beginning, for sure. Now, she may and likely has lost her damn mind now. Both things are possible. But it's important to understand, and this has everything to do with the last segment. And when I talked about the Republicans and why they weren't specifically against Trump, this is, they want to be somebody and they want to make money. Candace looked around. I'm a grifter. I want to be somebody and make money. Where do I do that the easiest? The Republican Party, which is why I also attach college football to it. The exact same thing, the mindset there. It doesn't matter that everything around you is you're stripping for parts and it won't be there long enough for anybody else to enjoy. Your moment is now. There in Congress, Candace doing this, even though now she's taking on the widow of Charlie Kirk. It doesn't matter. You can see she's never been happier. And if you don't understand that, if we have to combat her, and I believe we do, and Steve is absolutely right, very few did from the very beginning. This show was one of them, but you absolutely have to understand that she's a grifter, and we have an environment right now on the right that encourages it and applauds it, and she's not alone.
Aaron.
One of the bitter pills that I kind of had to grapple with is something that our colleague Oron McIntyre has talked about, and I think he's talked about it on our show. The left has a patronage network. The right kind of has this market. That means that on the right, our ecosystem greatly rewards that which gets the most clicks, that which gets the most people talking, that which gets the most interaction. So what is that? If you are soulless and you're not in pursuit of the truth, you will just do whatever it takes to get the most clicks, views, interactions, what have you. That's just the human nature reality. Now, that's not to say on the left that they're doing anything in pursuit of the truth. They have, I mean, they've spent generations marching through the institutions to put in place their patronage networks. But they also have an academic system that kind of filters out some of the worst of their ideas before it's palatable to put on the mainstream, to put into the mainstream.
Yep.
So they already have a built-in filter there. They're not really driven by market forces because they're spending your tax dollars basically giving people jobs, privilege, and positions. So that is a fundamental difference. It's really that simple, I believe. I think that's Occam's razor on why this sort of phenomena always happens on the right and rarely happens on the left.
David Brock, by the way, the name just... If your name is David Schrock out there, you're like furiously typing. Wait, what? I'm sorry. David Brock is who I was referring to, right? Brock wrote like the first tell-all book on the Clintons. Rush made it a bestseller. Then he turned around and said, oh, by the way, I like having sex with guys, and I'm starting a company called Media Matters, and my first target is this guy named Rush Limbaugh. Okay? So there we go. The same question to you, Keith, or maybe you think the question's unfair. You're welcome to go down that road too if you want.
Oh, I don't know. I would say that our side is filled with grifters, unfortunately. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this is just another in a long line of them from the beginning. But I think my frustration with this whole situation is that, and what's the quote from Thomas Jefferson? Question with boldness. I have no problem asking questions, trying to get to the truth. And then there's being an ass through your line of questioning. And so my frustration, though, is that this whole situation with Candace and a lot of the things that she has said in recent months, it clouds any legitimate questions that people may have about what happened to Charlie Kirk. Yep. And I think that there are still legitimate unanswered questions, and I'm going to be glued to the Tyler Robinson. I'm so grateful for this judge.
For example, I think it's pretty clear he's probably attached to some kind of Transtifa network, okay? That there is a network of this, and of several of these kinds of groups. We've profiled one of them on the Blaze, I think, earlier this year or last year, all right? That needs to be, and that's more of a federal matter than if it's a network than the local Utah prosecutor's office, obviously. But that would be one example of something that needs to be looked at. What do you say all the time? Trans is terrorism? Yeah. I think this is clear. There's clearly an underground network of this, terrorist network of this. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Keith.
No, that's fine. But but here's the thing. I agree with you on everything you just said. But this is the same federal arm, the FBI, that has failed to give us any answers on a similar situation with Thomas Crooks.
Yep.
I don't have faith in the FBI to answer the simplest of questions with truth. And so while people have legitimate questions about any kind of connections that Tyler Robinson may have had, his background, what you just referenced there with the trans furries, all that stuff is getting clouded now over this civil war on the right, and it's frustrating as hell because that's the news cycle now. Candace is the news cycle, not let's find out every last little detail about Tyler Robinson, and so to that end, it's maddening yet again because we continue to do this to ourselves.
I think we've said enough. Let's get to the exit question. If how much you think we need to referee our own side were a Guns N' Roses song, which Guns N' Roses song would it be? Welcome to the Jungle? Just nothing. No parameters, nothing. Ultimately, we just hope the audience is not so retarded that they won't. They'll do it for us. Basically, they'll not give resources to those who are clearly attempting to usurp us. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So just a complete Randy and free for all. All right. B, patience. Guys, which means, we need to have some of this. Okay. Or C, Paradise City. I just like how things are right now. They're going great right now. We have a little bit of it, not too much. I like how things are going right now.
Patience.
I think it's patience. What do you think it is, Keith?
Patience.
Patience. Aaron, what do you think it is?
Yeah, it's patience. I mean, if we had true evidence that everybody, all of the players, all of the figures were maybe grifting on their way to a common goal, fine, maybe it's A, but I don't see evidence of that.
All right, let's quickly get to the kicker topic. Issue 4, if you could permanently delete one Christmas song, which one would it be and why? Todd?
I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus.
That one? Okay. Keith, what about you?
Well, it was going to be Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney, but you made me Google this and get this crap in my head. I didn't know until this morning the name of that song, Christmas Rapping by the Waitresses, with that saxophone and that garbage. Ugh. So that's I got to pick Christmas Rapping.
All right. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas, or Santa Baby is mine. But go ahead, Aaron. Yes.
I got to do the Jackson 5, Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Really?
It makes my daughter cry.
Oh,
I like it, but
all right, that
makes her cry for whatever reason.
That's a good reason. Huh. That's a good reason. That you know what? That's an excellent reason. All right, let's get to predictions. Todd, go.
Ron DeSantis did an incredible thing in service of the country by stepping into that presidential race. I think he's going to do that again, but in a different way. He's not going to run. And along the lines of what I've said about J.D. Vance and getting him out front early, Ron DeSantis very early is going to endorse J.D. Vance for president.
Interesting. Okay. Keith.
Oh, my goodness. This is kind of lame, I think, but it's my prediction. I think the America 250 thing that Trump is behind and is just, he was born for this. I think that right there, if the Republicans retain the House and Senate, it's going to be because of the pride and what comes out of the America 250.
I agree with you that if there was ever a president for that celebration and commemoration, it is him for sure. And he loves schmaltz, QVC kind of schmaltz. And next year, and next year's the year for QVC kind of schmaltz, though. It's the year for that, right? Aaron.
The Supreme Court will uphold Trump's ability to inflict tariffs.
That would be a huge win and maybe help to also determine the course of his presidency. All right, my prediction is in 2026, Marjorie Taylor Greene will be a fill-in host on The View and Jimmy Kimmel, be a guest drag queen on a RuPaul reality show, and record a duet of Islands in the Stream with Rachel Maddow. Are there any other boxes for me to check here?
For all the same reasons as we talked about Candace. She's a grifter, and the environment is ripe for it.
Agreed. This stuff just never happens to them. It only happens to us, and it happens over and over and over and over and over. There's something systemically wrong with us at the water table level as a movement, all right? It's a little bit like if you keep getting sick with the same bacterial or viral infection over and over again, you're on the wrong probiotic, you're on the wrong antibiotic. You see what I'm trying to say? There's something systemically wrong with your health when it keeps happening over and over again. All right.
We love our idols.
There's clearly a hole in our matrix. Clearly. Keith, good to see you as always, my friend. All right.
Thank you.
You bet. God bless you and Merry Christmas, and hope your family has a great one too. Okay.
Same to you, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Keith wasn't wrong at all about his prediction. I mean, that is absolutely right. That's the entire Republican Party campaign. They can't do better on their own. Just go full America, red, white, and blue, Rocky thing, But we know they can't do better than that.
Maybe John Curtis will show up and wave a Somali flag.
And quite frankly, if they ruin that, it should be the end of the Republican Party. Like, if you can't get this right, it's teed up.
That's a good point. Let's see what kind of points you guys have waiting for us next with some Feedback Friday. Stay tuned. And we are back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. And then don't forget as well to subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to that now, hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, which a lot of you are, it's follow over there is the button you want to hit now, and that'll help you to make sure every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time. We're coming down to the end of the year. Tuesday will be my last day here in the office for the year. Because we're going to then all be out in Phoenix and do the show from there the rest of the week. And then next week is our doubleheader, our perennial doubleheader of end-of-year shows, the year-end Deace Group, the year in review, and then we bid adieu. And we'll see you guys again on January the 5th to kick off 2026. All right, you can also leave us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done that. So thank you for each and every single one. We appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it if you added yours today. This part of the show brought to you by our friends like Masa Chips, who want to know, do you remember when chips were, tasted like actual food? Before the big corporations decided to swap out real cooking oils for cheap seed oils. Everything, fries, chips, all of it, made in real beef tallow. One of the things that blows my mind is when you see the old black and white photos of teen parties in the 50s. And there's no such thing as Diet Coke, man. Everybody's just drinking pure sugar, 40 grams of sugar, cans of Coke, right? There's chips everywhere. Okay, sweets, chocolates everywhere, and every chick's like a size 3, and every guy's wearing like a 34-inch jean. Okay. And you're like, how did they do this? Right. Okay. So this may be one of the reasons why. All right. This all changed in the 90s. And now seed oils make up nearly a fifth of the average American's daily calories. Well, that's not the case here with Masa Chips. Their tortilla chips are made with just 3 simple ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No filters, no fillers, no junk, no seed oils, and they're thicker, crunchier, and sturdier than other chips out there too, which means they fill you up faster, so you won't eat as many. All right? So use the code DACE for 25% off right now at masachips.com, M-A-S-A. M-A-S-A, masachips.com. Use the code DACE for 25% off right now. And they got lots of flavors. We've tasted them all. The blue corn, the churro. I'm a lime tortilla chip guy. Those are very good. Masachips.com, M-A-S-A. And then click DACE, use the code DACE to get 25% off at masachips.com. All righty then. Are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Let's go.
All right, so for next week, we are way behind on these for the year. Way behind. So I'm going to see how many we get through today, and then I may make the decision that next Friday show, when we are out in Phoenix, since we're going to have the year-end Deace Group, right after that anyway, I may decide that next Friday show from America Fest is just a special 2-hour Feedback Friday. So all these people that have sent us all these great notes that I thought were worthy of preserving to talk about on the air actually get addressed. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
All right. So, but we'll see. We'll make that decision after we see how many we get through today. All right. Let's start here with Carmen, because this is a story that has come up really from the beginning of the year. Hey, your black female listenership really does exist, although there may just be 8 of us. Your show, which I affectionately refer to as Uncle Steve, is my daily go-to podcast. I'm a runner, and your show has got me through many hard workouts with a smile. So thank you very much. Particularly in these, she says, unprecedented times.
Bing.
Yeah, she wanted you to drop that in there. All right. She goes, I am writing about the role of women in the church because I'm seeing feedback on X that has grieved me lately. As mentioned, I'm a black woman in my 40s who grew up in black and multi-race congregations, often Pentecostal, non-denominational, where the roles of women were ample. While I heartily agree that the best candidate for a lead pastor role is an upstanding, godly man, my beliefs regarding the other roles are a bit more nuanced. In my own experience, I found that even the most strict adopters of biblical female church roles start to stammer a bit when asked if a woman can lead worship, a song, share a testimony, or even just give announcements. The recent reactions I've seen on X towards your colleague, Allie Stuckey, has grieved me to my core. And it's ironic because her show is what introduced me to yours by you being a guest with her. While I believe those who are speaking against her are largely misinterpreting her actions in Scripture, she's not even in these clips that they're responding to, even speaking in a church. I'm fine with them disagreeing with her. We all get to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. But why all of a sudden the weeping and the gnashing of teeth? Even if they disagree with a few of her actions, do they not see God's hand on her as she speaks to the culture? And I see Erica Kirk at times getting caught in this fray as well. My question is this: can we at least agree that at least part of this issue is not salvific? And for those of you that know what that means, meaning that it's not an issue that your individual soul's salvation and eternal destination is determined by how you respond to this issue. That doesn't mean it's not important. All right. You have lots of things in your own marriage that are very important, but there's a few things though that would lead to, a difference of that an issue would lead to a dissolution of the marriage, right? There are plenty of other things where you guys may disagree. It's just not going to dissolve your marriage. That's kind of a good analogy for salvific. Okay. Pardon me. I need to see if I got to sneeze. Thank you. All right. That this, along with the interpretation of a lot of these kinds of items, can be held to the conscience and accountability of a church, its pastor, the family, and individual believer. Isn't this what the Holy Spirit is for? Why can't some of these men just avoid her podcast and discourage their wives from listening if they don't agree with some of the vocal roles that she has taken, as opposed to screaming against her and not screaming against the actual soul bondage of sin like porn? Allie is encouraging a baby boom amongst her own audience. And her Jubilee appearance was fantastic. The presence of the Holy Spirit was obvious to any believer who watched. Satan loves this infighting. He loves it. I'm concerned we're creating an unforced error, allowing him to get into the Christian community with this topic as he sees the winds of revival starting to blow. What say you? Again, that's from Carmen. First of all, Carmen, that is extremely well worded and very thoughtfully worded. All right. And The amount of grace, you can just tell by the way she worded this. She is not here. Carmen is not here on behalf of the Longhouse. There were no buzzwords here. There was no, shrouded victimology
How dare you
here.
insult my generation?
None of that whatsoever. All right. She's not here on behalf of the Longhouse. Okay. She legitimately wants to know why there were men that seeing the good work Allie does. Why are there some men who want to go muzzle the ox while it's treading its grain? To use another biblical analogy. Why step right in there and say, well, wait a minute here. That's for us to be doing. Well, I mean, you could just go do it then. I mean, right. So I thought you gave a lot of nuanced possibilities. I thought you offered a lot of mercy and grace in your commentary while still asking provocative questions. So this is, and just in my own opinion, in terms of spiritual maturity, this is very, very, very well stated. A very well stated challenge. So wanted to say that. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. There's a couple of things here because I've been on the inside of some of the circles of the people that you're talking about. Okay. Let me start with a justifiable complaint. I used a reference a minute ago, a couple times, and maybe a few of you have not heard this reference before, and I'm not even sure I've used it on the show before. It's a feminist reference, the Longhouse, right? It essentially is referencing the idea of replacing patriarchy with matriarchy and feminizing everything, but not for femininity, for feminism. I could give you a way more academic, but that to make it as simple as possible, that's what that reference means, right? We want to displace the male authority structure. That's what it means. There is a legitimate concern and criticism among the young men that they are being born into a situation where, particularly if they're white and Christian now, they automatically must assume the sins of ancestors they don't even know, maybe never even had. For example, I'm not a young man. I wish I still was, but I'm not. I'm grandpa now. I'm papa. Okay. My ancestors largely came over here at the turn of the century during the initial, wave of European immigration during that era. And my ancestors were the wops, dagos, and garlic eaters that lived in the ghettos first in many of these cities. In fact, there's a reference to my ancestors in It's a Wonderful Life when Justice Potter refers to the people that George Bailey is helping to own a home as garlic eaters. That's a reference to my own ancestors. So my ancestors came over here almost about a generation post-Civil War. They weren't here for the era leading up to the Civil War. They didn't own any slaves. They weren't here for the Reconstruction. They didn't live in the South during Jim Crow. They weren't here for any of that. And in many respects, because they didn't know a lot of English or had different customs, they were just treated to a different round of ethnic and, xenophobic slurs at the time. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because I'm white and straight and a Christian. If I walked into almost any academic setting in America today, it would a certain amount of guilt would automatically be bestowed upon me because of what people that claim to be Christian and were white and straight did 150 years ago and for 200 years before that. A collective form of guilt, which I think we would all understand that the collective guilt is not biblical. That's not that's pagan. It's unbiblical. The young men that my son and his, so I'm talking about my son now, and his generation, Aaron's generation, they have automatically been assumed a level of societal guilt. And that messaging is everywhere to be found in our body politic. And I'm probably not saying anything to you, Carmen, that you don't already know, because if you didn't understand this, you probably wouldn't be listening to this show, right? As a black woman, if you did not understand the at least on some level, the legitimacy, even if you don't agree to the extent maybe that I'm describing it, but if you didn't think that there was a legitimate premise that I just exercised as a black woman, she's probably not listening to our show, right? Okay, all right, because she's going to see the racial disparity between her and me, and she's not going to let nothing will bridge that divide because that chasm exists. You see what I'm trying to say? So the fact you're listening to us means you have a way more developed biblical worldview, so you're willing to bridge that divide, and we have many commonalities despite the perception of that divide. Well, the perception of that divide has put a lot of young men in a place where they're automatic villains. Automatic villains. They've just inherited villainy. And they're responsible for everything. On top of that, they feel like they're, and there's legitimate fears for this, they feel like they're under a consistent threat that at any moment they may be called to die for a sandlot in the Middle East for nothing. I will tell you, my own son-in-law was told last year, or in 2024, that his unit was told if Biden won, they'd probably all get shipped out to Syria for reasons. So there's that. Stop me if I'm just going to go to you because you're even tougher on the men than I am. All right. Have I said anything that's not true about what our young men are being asked to inherit so far?
Broadly speaking, absolutely not. As it applies to the specifics of Ali Basaki, I'm not certain.
We're going to get there. I'm going to bring it home, but we need to set a backdrop.
Broadly, I argue with nothing.
On top of that, then trying to find a girl that they're moderately attracted to as a wife, who hasn't been completely worked over by feminism. Again, I've mentioned this before. How many times my son and I had conversations about? I'm wearing Des Moines Christian's logo here. All right, I paid Des Moines Christian close to $100,000 for my son to go there. About $75,000. Yeah, it's about $75,000 for Noah to go there from grade 7 through 12. Don't regret a single check I wrote, by the way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wearing their swag here on the show, right? Okay. But the truth of the matter was, even at that school, which is probably the best and biggest Christian school in the state, he struggled to find girls in his own grade that he liked and was attracted to that were not pro-abortion. At Des Moines Christian, let alone systemically in the broader culture. Am I embellishing that at all right so far?
No.
Okay. So, the options for them in many cases are go to college, get a bunch of student loan debt, and hope you don't become a gay race communist. Or go out into the workforce, but the problem is you're going to probably have to make at least $25,000 right out of the gate to move out of your parents' house, get an apartment that you're at least not, that's at least, somewhat safe, and own a car that you're not embarrassed to pick a girl up in. And that I can verify and vouch because I'm living in that world with my 18-year-old son right now. So that is the backdrop that is feeding some of the sentiment that you're describing. And we have to address that backdrop in order to isolate the more nefarious elements I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Remember when Keith Malinak said last segment that we now can't ask any questions about anything because of what people like Candace do? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. We struggle to isolate ne'er-do-wells and knuckle draggers if we don't address the legitimate environment that gives rise to them. You know what? Let me use one from a generation you'd understand maybe more, Carmen. Louis Farrakhan. If we looked at the body of work of Louis Farrakhan's content, could we, Todd, pull out individual elements of things that we think these are legitimate complaints, legitimate issues? And if I didn't know Louis Farrakhan said it, I'd probably agree. And the answer is yes.
Oh, certainly.
Certainly. And by the way, that's why he was effective. If everything he said was just a bald-faced lie, hey, and I'm here to get you to light yourself on fire, would anybody follow that?
Not that, maybe today, but not that.
The odds are at least slimmer, okay? So in great deceptions, they're always rooted in truth, otherwise no one would fall for them. I mean, Candace wanting things questioned all the time is completely legitimate. It's the fact that she only wants things questioned. That's what's not. And so if we do not address this environment, this ecosystem that our young men are inheriting and on top of that, oh, by the way, let's say you do find the cute girl and get married. Let's say you do get a job and you can buy a house, even though we have the oldest median age of first-time homebuyers in American history, 41 years old right now. Let's say you're a 25, 30-year-old man and you defied all of that, okay? Well, good, congrats. Here is your take-home prize. You've got to pay off trillions of dollars of debt that your parents and grandparents just dropped right on your lap. How you like them apples? That's your parting gift. That's your parting gift. Have I embellished any of this so far?
No.
This environment exists. And so it is feeding some of the reactionary blowback that you're describing. And we need to address this environment. and this collective guilt and debt that is being imposed on our young men. And if we don't adequately address it, then what will happen is some of the other elements I'm about to talk about here in a minute. They will continue to co-opt all of that angst and channel it into very destructive places like Carmen, your note, talks about. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Now, with that said, there is a certain kind of pastor in this era that thinks they are based and tougher and better than the previous pastors of the other era, the soft-headed sweater vest types we rag on this show about all the time. Except the reality is they're the exact same thing. They're the same thing. To quote myself from Todd quoting me earlier, the frosting is zanier, but the cake's the same. Now, why did Rick Warren and Joel Osteen and all those people and Tim Keller, why'd they water down the gospel in the last era? Because they wanted to appeal to a broader audience than just who came to their church, and then grow their church by appealing to that audience. And so just giving itching ears what they want to hear, rubbing their belly, telling them what they want to hear. God loves you just the way you are. Joel, oh, I'm not here to judge sin, Larry. That kind of stuff. People eat that crap up. You bet, tell me that God wants me and loves me and doesn't demand any change for me whatsoever, just the way that I am. And there's a little element of truth in there. God does love you just the way you are. He'll allow your soul to perish in hell for all of eternity, however, if you don't recognize you're not supposed to stay the way you are, while loving you. Because he loves the other people who did recognize such a thing so much that he doesn't want to make them share eternity with you who didn't. So then they suffered you in this life. Now they got to suffer you in everlasting life? No, we're not doing it that way. You made your choice. That's why there's a hell. Now that audience, that message slims the audience way more down than just stay who you are and God will accommodate you, right? Mm-hmm. You bet. Or in the case of Tim Keller, God demands you to change individually, but you don't have to change anything corporately around you. You don't have to challenge anything. You're allowed a holy huddle. You're allowed this third way of complete non-confrontation with the world. What's happening now is a certain kind of pastor is emerging now in rebellion to that is now taking it too far in the other direction. So if the previous generation of pastors too often said, I can't really preach the full counsel of God because I have to love my neighbor as I love myself, which really means you've put your neighbor above God now. Because God says to preach my word in season and out of season, preach the whole counsel of God. My word will not return void. How will they hear the word if there is no one to preach it to them? God's like, I don't need an editor. I got this. So if you decide that I cannot possibly risk offending the populist with the word of God, you've made people your God. And you've taken the second commandment to love your neighbor as you love yourself and replaced it, the first commandment, with it. What's happening with this new group that you're referring to is they have gone in the opposite direction now. They are saying we don't have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves at all. And so there's certain ways, there's certain things Rick Warren never said in church, because if he did, he wouldn't get invited to Davos. And there's certain things that Joel Osteen never says in church, because if he did, SiriusXM wouldn't give him his own channel. And there's certain things Tim Keller never said in his church, because if he did, MSNBC hosts would never leave 30 Rock and then attend his services later that day, which happened. Now we're just doing the opposite. Now I'm going to go online and say things I would not say in my church. Because that's what will get me the audience online that I want to grow. Same scam. It's the same scam. I want a broader audience than just what my pulpit will provide me. That's what the Rick Warrens and Joel Osteens and Tim Kellers did for a generation. And the people that you're talking about, they're doing the same thing. I want a broader audience than my little country church in Tennessee with very few, or Texas or Alabama, name the place, that has 30 people in it. But this will get me tens of thousands of followers on X. And of course, the more abrasive, the more irascible, the more douchey the content, the more Fuentesian the content, the more the algorithm will reward me and give me the follower and the notoriety that I want. It's the same clout chasing as before. Instead of chasing clout in Davos or New York or academia, now we're clout chasing Don't Jew Me Bro 47 on X. Now we're clout chasing Zionism is a heresy 22 on X. It's the same thing. And so when somebody like Allie comes along and does their job for them, puts the word prophetically in context in a corporate setting, which is what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not doing it. They're clout chasing instead to get some nebulous blob of followers that we don't even know are real or American if they are, as we've learned in the last month. They resent it, but because she's convicting them. She's doing their job. So instead of saying, I guess I could have been doing what Allie's doing, but instead I was trying to draft off of Nick Fuentes' social engagement, they turn around and say things like, bake me a cake, bake me a pie. That's what they do.
Now we are totally over the target.
Okay. So again, it's important though to understand, just like we said with the Fuentes thing in Tucker a month ago, you must understand the environment that gives birth. If the German people would, when they were a prosperous, benevolent monarchy under Bismarck and the Kaisers, if a figure like Hitler emerged and said, hey, follow me into nihilism, would they do it? No, in fact, he tried. He tried to do that, and they threw his ass in prison. That's where Mein Kampf was written. A few years go by. They can't govern anymore. The Weimar Republic is collapsing. People are desperate. All of a sudden, they think, well, maybe this Adolf guy's got some ideas. You see what I'm saying? You must understand the environment that gives birth to these things. Farrakhan grew an audience because there was a premise and kernel of truth to what he was saying. If there wasn't, he wouldn't have drawn one. Fuentes, there's a kernel of truth to what he is saying. If there wasn't, he wouldn't draw one. But you can always tell who the liar is, not by what the accusation of what they claim the problem is, but what they say the solution should be. That's how you know. Because the enemy's nihilistic, he offers no solutions. It'll just be do your own version of the accusation or keep repeating the accusation or keep doing the same thing over and over again. So with a Farrakhan, you're just a perpetual victim. You're perpetually a victim. So the kind of pastor I'm talking about, you're perpetually longhouse. You're never responsible. Well, you think maybe you can't get a girlfriend because you haven't, washed your hair in a month or gotten a job maybe. If you tried a job, chicks like those. Try a job. You're never, ever responsible for your own actions. And that's where the deception comes in.
Absolutely.
Just like with Candace, it's not the asking of questions that makes Candace a satanic grifter. It's the fact she has no evidence and doesn't want to pursue any or admit that fact. That's what does. And similarly, and that's the case in all of these examples I've cited. If you want to know who's for real, don't look at what they claim are the problems. Look at what they claim is the solution. And that'll tell you the answer. Am I being demonically deceived? That's why I've been saying for the last 3 months with Candace, asking questions, I don't have a problem. Even before the whole Candace thing came open, my buddy Larry Taunton got on me because I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with Tucker putting Daryl Cooper on to question World War II. My problem is Tucker never questioned Daryl Cooper. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
Ask all the questions you want. Our Lord is such an open book. He made himself human. He wrote us a love letter, wrote us a book. He even put poetry in it. Ask all the questions you want. What are the answers? Where are the answers? Who is the answer? And that's how you can tell what's real and what's not. And that's how you can tell who's really just a warmed over 21st century Gnostic heretic. And who really is a critical thinker, is a contrarian, maybe has views that are wrong, may not be right about a lot of fundamental things, but inherently they're not a malevolent force. See what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can tell. And the problem that they have with Allie is she is pointing people to answers. And if enough people get to the answers, well, they're not going to fall for their shtick of endless questions anymore. I hope I did a sufficient job of answering your very important email. Gentlemen, you have any thoughts on that before we go to the break?
I do. Those answers, they often complain, well, Allie, you're not, men have to give us this message. You're not allowed to tell us we shouldn't be watching porn. Well, that's a scam, guys. Regarding those answers, you don't like it when I give it to you either. A lot of the guys with these complaints, but you dare tell me not to spend my days complaining behind an anonymous account with zero accountability and playing video games all day. You don't like it when it comes from a man either. You have legitimate grievances, but your answers often suck. All right. And secondly, a lot of this is just plain jealousy regarding Allie. Yep. And listen, when it comes to Allie, I defended her very aggressively and publicly with this, but she and I differ very much on Catholicism. And in that conversation, we did different between me and her than it would be with Steve and Aaron. She's got a far more aggressive take. So I'm just saying this is not kumbaya. But on this, my goodness, she's totally transparent. She has a woman's ministry. When people come to watch her, sometimes the husbands come along. I hope they go along willingly and aren't just dragged along by their hair. That would be a problem. But listen, Allie is very, very good at what she does. And when I push back publicly, they're making jokes about her baking pies. They're totally being condescending. And when I got in the locker room with them and I gave them the same, they were like, oh, why are you so aggressive? Why don't you come on our podcast? That's when I knew it's just a scam and that you're jealous. No, I called you names too, and you didn't like it very much. Come on, guys. Don't be little boys.
I think a pretty good rubric if you are online and you were getting all over Allie in recent months for a very successful event, but saying whatever you're saying, this shouldn't be, this is not biblical, women shouldn't be preaching, even though that's not, I don't think what she was doing, shouldn't be teaching. I don't think that's necessarily biblical either, but whatever. If you were very aggressive on that, but have said squat about Candace, or have kept quiet, you've got some thinking to do.
Correct.
You've got some thinking to do.
More in a moment. You know, juggling a million plans shouldn't mean your future doesn't make your to-do list because, again, I checked that death rate. It remains a robust 100%. So, hey, doing your estate planning and those end-of-life decisions, I'll get to it when I've got time. Well, sooner or later, time runs out. All right? So make the task quick and straightforward, and I'll give you the company that can do that for you because that's who we use. All right, go to trustandwill.com/Deace. You get 20% off their simple, secure, and expert-backed estate planning services. Again, this is the company that we use. So I will personally vouch for them. They have, it's customizable yet simple at the exact same time. Everything can be done according to the laws of your state specifically. Everything's encrypted as well. They've got a new shared document access feature. So if you want to let your loved ones in on what your plans are, so they're prepared for when that inevitable day comes, you can do that as well. All right. So we're talking care wishes, guardian nominations, final arrangements, power of attorney, and more. Add some peace of mind to your future with Trust and Will. Go to trustandwill.com/Deace for 20% off. That's 20% off at trustandwill.com/Deace. All right. Katie, let's do this because we can do this one pretty quickly. Katie says, does pornography use, to be clear here, the definition of seeking out and viewing pictures or videos of people engaging in sexual activity for the purpose of the viewer's sexual gratification, fall under the biblical definition of adultery, making it grounds for divorce in the Bible? We have very dear friends walking through this issue right now, and not for the first time. While we would in no way encourage divorce as it grieves the heart of God and would be devastating to their 2 young children, there has been some disagreement on whether it would qualify as biblical grounds for divorce or not, since we wanted to get your thoughts. Regardless of your opinion, though, do you have any advice to share for this couple or for the Christian brothers or sisters trying to help them navigate this? Prayers for this couple will also be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Katie. Well, Christ said to even look on another woman with lust is as if you committed adultery in your heart. So the standard is very high. And I would agree that that standard does apply here, for sure. I will tell you, for me on a personal level, most of the time, I'm going to be very uncomfortable with what is grounds for divorce. Not that I don't have opinions on it. I don't know the particulars of a situation. I'm not involved. So let me start. I started with a general principle, okay? But to this particular situation, I don't know. There's lots of things, okay? So the decision for divorce is most of the time irrevocable. And it will cause damage. That's not debatable. And I say that as someone who 5.5 years ago was that close to doing it, okay? And yet, now 5.5 years later, I could not possibly love my wife more than I do. Our relationship's better than it's ever been. So this is why I'm uncomfortable with saying, yes, you have grounds. Because I don't want to get in the way. I don't know, marriages and relationships are complicated, and I don't know the state of things, how long things have gone on, what was promised, what was not. And I don't want to get in the way of the Holy Spirit being at work, because I'm living proof that God can pull marriages back from the literal brink, that he can do it. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
All right. So, here's what I would say, though, to the guy here. And you can't even guarantee anymore it's the guy, right? My wife will point out about 30% of pornography users are women now. All right? Both my wife and I have struggled with this over the course of our lives. So assuming, though, it's the guy, most of the time it is. It's not as frequent as it used to be, but it's still most of the time is the guy. I mean, I would, if I were in a room with him, I would say, how long does an orgasm last? 15, 20 seconds, maybe? It's really that orgasm is that release is that important to you that you're willing to risk all of this for that? Have you thought about it that way? Because when I say it out loud like that, it sounds pretty retarded and silly to me. So the fact she hasn't divorced him yet would probably lead me to believe that he has generated some care for her and the children in the past, right? Otherwise, she probably would have divorced him by now, probably. Fair?
Okay.
So I'd say to that guy, I mean, clearly you've demonstrated some level of love and support and regard for your wife and children, which is why she hasn't left you yet. So if you care about them, you would throw this whole thing away for that. For that. Because it sounds pretty dumb and retarded to me. And men need to be spoken to this way. Men need to be confronted directly. Because we are logic driven. And when we are behaving in the ways like Katie, what you're describing, the logic center is turned off. And so the reason why men need to be spoken to this way, and whether it's coaches on a sports team speak to their players this way when things are really bad. Dads speak to their sons this way when things are really bad. Generals and sergeants speak to their soldiers this way when things could get bad or are really bad. Why? Because you need to get the men to shut off the emotion sector of the brain that's doing all the thinking right now. And that's the southern hemisphere, by the way. That's in the southern hemisphere. You need to shut that thing off so that the northern hemisphere kicks in and starts thinking. The logic center kicks in. Because when men are thinking right, they're very bottom line oriented. That's the way we were made. Task oriented, bottom line oriented. We do the math. What's the game? What are the rules? Who's keeping score? How do I win? If a man's not thinking that way, it's because this thing's off and this thing's on. Okay? I'll leave it at that for now. Before I get to the next live read, you guys want to add anything to that at all?
Yeah, I assume you're coming to us because Christ is somewhere in the conversation of all this, which if he's not, then there's no limiting principle on this. But I assume within the family you are talking about, that at least that's something you can put on the table. Because everything Steve said about this as a sin is accurate, but it's a sin. and we're all sinners. So the real question isn't really, is this a divorceable sin? The real question, if you're a Christian, is this a forgivable sin? And
you mean appeal to a higher authority than the wife? Then I mean, why are you doing this to your own Lord? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. But also, like,
that'll preach. I hear you. Didn't even think about that.
Which sins can't be forgiven? Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is the only one mentioned in the Bible. Other than that, and this comes up in the marriage prep that my wife and I did during our marriage for the Catholic Church. It was consistent amongst the couples. They ask a lot of different questions, a lot of different ways in these Scantron tests you take, but I found them to be pretty useful. And the one consistently, especially amongst the women, that they just could not forgive was infidelity. Is that forgivable or not?
Okay, that's good.
To the Lord, it is. And if you're a Christian, that's the part that you have to be the most honest about first.
That's a good word right there. Aaron, you good? You have something you want to add?
I think both of you covered it brilliantly.
Okay,
but I do like Todd's charge there because
that was
we
good.
are. Yep. We are called to do more than we think we can do.
Yes,
as believers.
I'm going to tell you right now, that'll help me. Because listen, I've been fighting this battle ongoing since I've been 12 years old. Right, so. That's a good word. That's good. That preached to me too, man. So thank you. Cynthia Clark. But you know what? Before we get to you, Cynthia, my bad. Before we get to you, I got to get to my friends over at Jace because they paid me to talk to Cynthia. All right. Okay. All right. So our friends at Jace have been around here for the last few years. And I love the fact that they came on board in response to what the scamdemic and the system was trying to do to us. They were greatly concerned what was going on with hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And they said, hey, if they're going to do this to drugs they just gave awards to, why wouldn't they do this to drugs that have been helping people for 100 years, like, penicillin, doxycycline? And so that's where the Jace case originated. Now, since they came on board, I think around 21, 22, they've expanded their menu to all kinds of preparedness products. You can even customize your Jace case now. They've got add-on features, including the aforementioned ivermectin. If you're concerned they might take your medications away or the medications of a loved one, for example. When you consider about 80% of our antibiotics are made in China, you're worried about that, right? Take a lot of that worry off the table. Take as much control of your situation as you possibly can at Jace. Go to jace.com, J-A-S-E at jace.com, and then use the code DACE, my last name, for a discount. Get a discount on your order, code DACE at jace.com, J-A-S-E. All right, now back to you, Cynthia. Sorry for the misfire there. She says, I was talking to a coworker recently, and he said if you ask people when the best time of their lives was, they would say their childhood. And he's all for prolonged adolescence. I do not understand this mentality and need you guys to explain why prolonged adolescence is not a good thing. He just says, what would you want him to do? Have a mortgage and 3 kids? Men these days take on the responsibility of a wife and kids and then do nothing but complain about those responsibilities. I told him I think they need to be contributing members of society. Could you please help me explain this better? I don't know, Cynthia. I think you kind of explained it pretty well. I mean, I don't think you need much help. I think you kind of nailed it.
Be a citizen.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of nailed it.
The retort was a mortgage and 3 kids is a complaint?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Now, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, though, about, to Carmen and her answer, we have to address the larger reason why a generation of men think this way and then more tragically feel comfortable expressing it. When you skip a generation of fatherhood, a lot of these men have no idea what life will be when they're 50 or 60 because they don't have a dad finishing well. You see what I'm trying to say? So that's not being modeled to them. All right. They don't see a dad right now who in his peak earning years, like the first thing I said to Autumn when Anna put her in my arms, I'm going to spoil you every bit as much as I did your mama, but except when your mama was this little, I've got money now. All right. So buckle up. They don't see that. Right? They don't have a dad who's at his peak earning years and in his 50s and 60s, you know, and he's made it in his career and he's at the halcyon of his career and he's, you know, Christmases are bigger than ever and we're taking family vacations and family dinners at our house and everything's on mom and dad. They don't see that. They don't see dad and mom still pinching each other's butts, you know, when they're grandparents. They don't see that. You know, you can't rise above your own worldview. And so there is a legit issue that has to be addressed. This is why I've been saying we're going to have a revolution in the young men. That's not debatable. The seeds of that are already planted and are being watered as we speak. What we're going to determine is which revolution is it? Is it the French Revolution, which is what Carmen was concerned about and asking me about, or is it the American Revolution? And this is why I've also said, though, it'll be our generation, Gen X, their parents. The men of our generation and the older generation, we will be the ones that will determine which revolution it is by how we finish. If we finish well, the young men will be way more likely to fight the American Revolution. If we don't, reign of terror it is after Bastille stormed. Because we need a generation to model finish. The previous generation is not finishing well. In fact, it's going to be one of the worst, collectively, one of the worst finishing generations in all of Western civilization. And maybe, you know, we went from, maybe after lamenting, maybe we get skipped over. Maybe there's never a Gen X president, right? Well, maybe that's not our role. Maybe our role is not to assume the bonds of leadership in the traditional way as Gen Xers. But our role is for the younger generations to see us finish the race, so that then they are better prepared to lead when they get to our age later. They need to see finishing the race. We just skipped a generation. What's the new trend? I don't leave anything to my kids. We are not seeing a generation finish well. And it is very incumbent upon us in Gen X to finish well, to not be the 62-year-old guy now I've got the 38-year-old side piece chick and I'm just going to blow up my family for reasons. Don't be that guy. And what the young men need to see is the reward that comes later by not prolonging adolescence. I'm in the best. We have issues. We have arguments amongst us. Kids have arguments amongst themselves. We have ups and downs. I will tell you right now, I'm in the best era of my life collectively right now. And my only real regret is that I wish I was 42 instead of 52. So I could enjoy it longer. And that's what the generation of younger men need to see. They need to see what the payoff is for not prolonging adolescence in their 20s and 30s. They need to see what that payoff is later on in the years to come. Word about our friends over at Chirp. If you've been struggling with chronic pain, soreness, achiness, we're getting into the time of year here soon. A lot of us are going to have New Year's resolutions. But maybe, you get some soreness and stiffness because you haven't been active for too long. Chirp can help you. They take the clinical treatments and all those expensive appointments and make it so you can do it at home. That's really their mission, is to give relief to people with proven technologies like the Chirp Contour, which will help with your alignment from the neck down. I've used that. Aaron has used the Halo, which kind of helps with when those nerves, those pain centers, helps rejuvenate those. I've used the Rolling Power Mini Massager. They've got a whole lineup of trigger point rollouts. That's something you're going to want to look into, all right, if you're getting active in your life again. That will be an absolute lifesaver in breaking up all that acid and inflammation that will come when you start pushing your body again, right? So you can keep being active and recover faster. All this stuff available for you right now when you go to gochirp.com/Steve. And if you go to that website, they'll make it free shipping for you, all right? Go Chirp, like Birdie Chirp, CHIRP, gochirp.com/Steve. And if you go there, you get free shipping at gochirp.com/Steve. I got about a minute. You got a word that what I just said to Cynthia in the email?
No, I got a word. I think we're doing a whole show of letters on a week from today.
I'm a victim. You guys keep sending too thought-provoking of notes, and I can't answer them in like 3 minutes. right? I mean, listen, what am I supposed to do when Carmen says, listen, I need you to solve the entire gender identity and equity battle occurring within the Western Church here? And I can't do that in 5 minutes, Todd. What am I supposed to do?
Help me help you.
That's right. I'm a victim here. All right. All right, we're going to stick around and do overtime for subscribers. For the rest of you, we're going to see you Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Go hard. Romans 8:28.